So, Natasha has just launched a new palette. It's called I Need a Nude and it was leaked during the weekend, so I worked mostly with their leaked images. And by the way, the leaks always happen within Natasha Denona, so I think it's sad that they threatened the creator for talking about the palette, and I think that was handled very poorly by the team. That's why I decided to wait to upload this, and I hope they do better in the future. But anyways, let's talk about the palette. It looks like a pretty cool palette, cool as in cool toned, and I think these shimmery shades are gonna be similar to Yaka palette, so that's exciting. But the overall color story reminds me a lot of glam and retro, so I base my dupe mostly out of these two palettes. So the first shade is going to be Crease from the Glam palette, and I just hate those names, they're so uninspiring and they repeat each other, but anyways. It's a very pretty cool tone taupe shade and I think it goes well with stone, at least on my setup. Next is going to be one of the inner corner shades from the Glam palette. It's this very pretty light champagne shade, but it has a bit of blue in there, so it looks very special. This is going to be replacing the Whisper shade. Next, I chose Flare from the Retro Glam palette. This is described as a sparkling metallic vintage rose with a silver shift. And I'm going to use it to replace the shade Ella in the I Need a Nude palette, because Ella looks like a cool leaning plum, and this is the closest that I have. Next, I use the shade Go-Go from the Retro palette, described as a matte medium warm rose. This is a cream to powder and the one in the palette isn't, but I think it goes well in color. The shade that it's replacing is Big. Next, this is Jude from the Retro palette, described as a metallic warm taupe. This one is very reflective and I'm going to use it to replace Travertine, even though I'm not really sure what that shade is, so I may change it when I know exactly what it is. Next, this is Palladium from the Retro Glam. This is described as a metallic pastel sage green. And it's the closest thing that I could find to the shade Delilah, but I know it's going to be way too different. Next, this is Aspiration from my Dream palette. I wanted a brown that wasn't so basic because the one in here looks like it has the slightest bit of warmth in it, so I chose this one. The brown is called Silhouette, by the way. Next, this is Thrill from the My Dream palette. It's described as a sparkling metallic golden nude duochrome with a pink shift. And I swear, every brand has their own version of this shade, and I get it. It's very wearable and pretty while being shifty. I'll use it for Muse, even though Muse looks a bit cooler. Next, I use First from the Lab palette, which is described as a peachy beige with a creamy matte finish. I think the one in the new palette is a bit less peachy, but it's the closest that I had. The shade is Fair. Next, I wanted to use Jassy from Retro Glam, described as metallic dark cool brown. And this is exactly what I see in the shade Filigree. Maybe it's a bit sparklier and warmer, but I think this one will do the job. Next, I use Carpe Diem from my Dream palette, a matte medium dusty peach. This one looks pretty close to Wheat, at least in my setup. This is Flutter from Retro Glam, a sparkling light champagne pink. This is one of the few shades that I have that I could consider toppers, and I think the shade Sheen is going to be a topper. So yeah, I'll use this one to replace Sheen. Next, this is Smoke from the Glam palette, a medium cool brown. And this one looks pretty dang close to Tender. This is Belle from the Retro Glam palette, a matte medium dusty rose. I'm gonna use it to replace Mesh. Next, I use Psychedelic from the Retro palette, a warm baby pink topper with multicolor sparks. This shade is so freaking pretty and sparkly, and I think it's going to go well with Mia. Although Mia looks a bit cooler, but it's the only pinky cool shade that I have that is also a topper. So yeah, here's my whole dupe finished. I think mine looks way warmer, so I hope that means that theirs is going to be way cooler than this. Natasha Denona has this tendency of making their palettes look a bit cooler in their promo photos, but you know, I get it, it's difficult to show the true colors. Even I'm not sure that the colors that I'm showing are so true to life. So yeah, I'll give them a pass because working with cosmetics must be pretty damn hard capturing the colors, especially because any type of light can change the colors altogether. And here's the finished palette. Again, the textures, the colors, I don't think they're going to be spot on, but I'll be curious to know how close I got. I'm not sure if I'm going to get the palette. What do you guys think? Are you gonna get it? Are you going to dupe it? Are you going to wait for swatches? I think I'll wait for swatches because I don't want this to be a warmer palette. I want this to be a way cooler palette than this. And I think I'm going to trust swatchers more than I will trust them. Also, as I've said before, I've heard that the formula that they're going to include is similar to the sparkly shimmers that we found in the Yaka palette. And I quite like those, so, you know, those are really driving me to want the palette, but I'm not sure about the mattes. Here's a closer look at the swatches. And as I've said, it looks quite warm, but at the same time it kind of fit, in my view, to what I saw in the screen. Most, not all obviously. But anyways, I hope theirs is cooler. Oh, and by the way, this is what I came up with when I worked with the low quality image, because I couldn't tell most textures and colors in there. I just thought it was interesting how much my interpretation changed just with a few more pixels. And I think it'll change even more when reviewers start sharing their palettes. Also, I wanted to compare my dupe to Rose Quartz from Huda Beauty, and the Huda Beauty palette looks way pinkier and cooler toned. It honestly looks like the funner version of the Natasha Denona palette. But you know, if what you want is the neutrals, the toned down shades, then the Natasha Denona might be a better option. But if what you're looking for is a cool tone rosy palette, then look no further than Rose Quartz. It's such a beautiful palette, honestly. It's one of my favorites from 2020s. Or you can also dupe the vibes of this one. You don't have to buy new things to get these color stories. But anyways, this is just a dupe based off of a photo. I haven't even seen the real reveal, so I need to actually see it before I make up my mind if I'm going to buy it or not. What do you guys think? Are you gonna get it? Are you not even intrigued? I hope this inspired you to dupe it, even if you're planning to pick it up, because it's just fun to use what you have and see where it can get you. But anyways, that's all for now. Thank you for watching and have a great day.